A good group to get started here. My name is Nathan Jager, marketing manager here at EchoStor. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to come join us. I'm just throwing this out there so that you have the permission. This is a happy hour, so fill your beers, fill your wine glasses. This is a happy hour series. I have mine right here. We will be sending a Drizzly $25 gift card to everybody. Will be in your inboxes tomorrow to replenish your stock for what you go through today. On the call today, we have Chuck Salvo from Ovatio Technologies and Seth Piontek from EchoStor. We are recording the session, okay, so feel free to share with your teams. We'll shoot that out in an email to you tomorrow for you to share with your teams. Feel free to ask questions along the way. We'll try to get to as many as we can midstream, but we will leave a few minutes at the end in case there's any lingering questions. Additionally, just so everyone remembers, this is part one of a three-part series we're doing with our new partners at Ovatio. The second webinar takes place on January 14th. And that's around learning how to automate your processes with the Power Platform's low-code, no-code solution. And another one Thursday, February 18th. As well, achieve optimal productivity, learn how to use advanced capabilities of Microsoft Teams. So that one's really around Microsoft Teams. So we're also, if you do attend all three, we're going to shoot you out a nice little gift, some pint glasses, some wine glasses, some whiskey glasses, so that you do have everything just to kind of keep with the happy hour theme. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Seth Piontek to introduce himself.
Thanks, Nate. My name's Seth Piontek. I'm a solutions architect with EchoStor. I've been in the IT field for 10 plus years at this point, helping different clients and organizations deliver complex solutions either on-prem or in the cloud. So I've seen a whole bunch of different solutions deployed in a whole bunch of different ways. I have a lot of experience to pull from that. Chuck?
Thanks, Seth. This is Chuck Salvo. I'm the Chief Digital Information Officer at Ovatio Technologies. I have about 20 plus years of experience helping companies of various sizes leverage and improve their data, their applications, their application networks, and get the most out of their value, specifically in the Microsoft Cloud. So with that, let me tell you a little bit more about Ovatio. We are a cloud consulting and enterprise IT staffing company. Been in business for 20 plus years, very senior team of both recruiters and engineers. We have US-based engineering talent, and we are the only Microsoft partner to offer what is called as our Microsoft Optimization as a Service. And with that, we're going to go over a little bit about what that service is at the end and how we go about getting to that. So a little bit more about what we provide. We work with businesses to help them scale, solve, and succeed using a balanced ecosystem of transformative services. So you'll see around the outside, we offer up staffing, and then as part of that ecosystem, security, and all of our other pieces as well, as far as content management, business process management, data intelligence, application development, integration, and communication and collaboration. We can help your organization with one or any one of these things. And this presentation here is going to be a little bit about how to optimize this piece right here, these different ecosystems. So the Microsoft Cloud, it's really three different clouds. We have Microsoft 365. This is the cloud that most people are familiar with. It's kind of the cloud they start with. Traditionally, we see organizations dip into the cloud by moving their Exchange on-premise workloads into Outlook Online. The next cloud is Microsoft Azure. Many customers are familiar with this. Traditionally, infrastructure as a service in the cloud, but really the power of Azure is the different pieces of Azure that can help work with Office 365. And lastly, Microsoft Dynamics 365. We're not going to touch on that here, but that's really around Dynamics, Business Central, Finance and Operations, more of your ERP application suite. Seth.
And Chuck, I find that this slide is really helpful here to actually identify, hey, when you're talking about Microsoft, there actually are three different clouds to talk to, because a lot of the clients that I talk to, when you say, hey, Microsoft Cloud, that means something different to every single person I talk to. So when we're going into people talking about, hey, what do you license for Microsoft right now? What can we do to try to help you get the best return on your investment for all of these products that you already licensed for that you're not using? it really helps to kind of start this high level here and identify the Microsoft Cloud that you want to talk about. And then we can dig into the details of, hey, you have this licensing level here. Okay, great. These are all the products you're entitled for. Are you using them? Do you have any initiatives? And then getting into what we can do to really help everybody maximize that investment.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have this notion of the ideal Microsoft Cloud journey, right? So we're staff from the left, and the first thing we look at is security, because in our world, before we move content, before we expose data, before we allow people to get access to things, we really want to make sure they're secure. When they're secure, we can then really delve into the more productive and collaborative features. So the next piece there is content and collaboration. And then after that, we move into productivity and then business intelligence, and then we continue to optimize. So this is just kind of a high level view of what we're going to go over right here. This right here is our business application solution ecosystem base. What this really is it gives you an idea of what's in those clouds. So when you look at the top, we have Dynamics 365, sales, customer service, marketing over here, retail, finance and operations, right? Business Central. Down below, we have our Office 365, 120 million users. This is a little bit outdated. They've got a lot more than that. There's also the LinkedIn platform that Microsoft owns. There's a Power Platform and the Common Data Service now, which is Microsoft's Dataverse. And then down below is Azure, right? And again, here you see a little bit more about those services: vision, speech, knowledge, cognitive, the bot framework, and 600 plus and growing services. So really, these three clouds are very encompassing for what you can do. And our goal as an organization is to be a digital Sherpa, help you be a guide to how do you leverage these tools? How do you leverage these technologies? How do you get the most out of these? Because here's the thing, you have some of these, and you may or may not have even more depending on the licensing that you have. And Microsoft will also give you additional services depending on your consumption. So again, when you're looking at, do I have a Microsoft E3? Do I have an E5? Do I have a Microsoft 365 Business? All these different licensing unlock different features and functionality inside of here. So all these clouds can offer more, but where do we even start? Like we talked about, that cloud journey is kind of that idea of, maybe we started 3 months ago and we did, we launched Teams because of COVID-19, or we've got, like I said, Exchange Online, maybe even have SharePoint Online. And that's really the notion of that cloud maturity model. How mature is your cloud? How stable is it? How secure is it? How much are you using out of it? And this is where we start with, where are you in this journey, right? So like we talked about, our best game plan, we want to start with security. So Microsoft has this notion of secure score, right? So the security score for your tenant. So let's take a quick look at that so you get an idea of what you get with your tenant. So Microsoft Security Center. This right here is a baseline tenant. This is a demo tenant that we spin up. And you'll see right over here, the first thing is, wow, my secure score is 17.24. This is terrible. But the best part about this is you can go in there and improve your score, right? So what Microsoft does here is they give you a list of things that you can leverage, that you can turn on, i.e. multi-factor authentication for administrative roles, sign-in risk policy, user risk policy, customer lockbox, all these different things, you'll see the impact on the score. So again, Microsoft gives you this as part of your tenant. And then moving on, there are other pieces. These are all different pieces inside of Microsoft Security Center, right? So we have device management, we have cloud app security, we have O365 security and compliance, we have your Azure Security Center, we have ATP over here, Azure Active Directory, and then Azure AD Identity Protection. So this whole suite is available to you, again, depending on your SKU. Some of these things are unlocked at certain levels. So one of the things you'll notice over here, if you go into improve your score, that'll actually tell you right here, do you have a license to solve this problem, right? So some things don't have it. So if you've just had a frontline worker and they're just an E1, they're not going to have conditional access policies. They're not going to support MFA. So that's the type of things that we can help our customers identify and say, here's how to maximize that security.
Chuck, we did have a question come in while you're on the topic. Does Security Score come with any license?
Yes. Yes. Every single tenant inside of Office, inside of Microsoft gets Security Score.
Well, security is a conversation we're having with almost everybody every day. It seems like every day, whenever you look at the news, there's a company being hacked, or there's ransomware, there's some security issues going on. And we're seeing a lot of duplication of efforts where, like you mentioned before, people are rolling all these different security products here, but they're also already paying for a lot of security products that are built into the Microsoft suite. So to try to help people kind of get the best return on their investment, we're going into them and saying, hey, look, you're already paying for this product here. Do you know that you're entitled to all these other products here with the Microsoft suite? Let us help you get the most of your investment for what you're already paying for, and then we can address any gaps after the fact.
Awesome. All right, so we've got a secure environment, right? We're protecting our endpoints. We've got Defender running. We're listening to signals. So now in our mind, the next thing we want to do is improve communication. Let's get you past just using, email, using phone calls, right? So Microsoft Teams. Teams is a great communication and collaboration tool. I know in the beginning we had a quick poll go out there in regards to people that are using Teams. Nate, what do we see on that? A lot of people on here using Teams. Should we spend a little time on Teams?
Yeah, I mean, from the responses that we got, pretty much everybody that responded said that they are currently leveraging Teams in their environment. So I think it's a pretty forward group on that.
All right, good. Well, I won't bore you with getting into Teams. I can tell you this as an organization, we're fully remote everywhere, and we're using it all the time from the standpoint of managing our projects, integrating Power BI dashboards, integrating the Power Platform, and really taking advantage of the Teams as a unified communication tool. And one thing that we're always trying to do is remove email, right? I mean, email to us, it's a good technology. The internet, SMTP was a great protocol. It still is a very solid protocol, but it's a great intercompany protocol, right? So when you're talking about, hey, I'm dealing with someone outside the organization, email is an easy way to communicate with them. But inside the organization, we're really trying to push towards leveraging Teams more and more, using Teams functionality like channels, private channels, and really reduce email and using conversation and chat to improve communication. And on that same note, making sure that, are we paying for Slack? Are we using GoToMeeting? Are we using Zoom? Are we using these other competing technologies? And why? Why do we really need those, right? So some people say, well, GoToMeeting's got a great, webinar presentation, so on and so forth. You can do a Teams live event. Paying for Slack, why? Generally what we'll see is a lot of companies that have a lot of development, well, they embrace Slack. Well, in these days, Teams is just as good, if not really better than Slack, and has all the integration points. We can bubble up builds from Jira and provide those as notifications at a team and do all sorts of integration with the Atlassian stack or Azure DevOps. So Teams to us is a great way to really improve that communication. And Seth, you mentioned that, I think we were talking last week, you're seeing a lot of customers embracing Teams as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2020. Everybody's working from remote. There's no end in sight. We're all going to be working from home for a while. I mean, I've probably run into at least a dozen different messaging clients that I've used for video conferencing or a number of different meetings that I've had throughout this past year. But a lot of people just keep going back to Teams. And I know we've said this before, but Teams is one of these products that's already included in your license. A lot of people are using Slack, or they're using Zoom, or they're using WebEx. And so there's a duplication of this effort where if people take a look at everything they're licensed for, first off, Teams will fit a lot of those uses. But then the added benefit of Teams, which Chuck mentioned before, is this integration that Teams has with all the other Microsoft products. And that's really where the value and the power of this product comes in, where depending on how your groups and your teams are organized, you can have this one product to go in with where you can use Word documents, where you can share documents, you can update them all from there, you can IM, you can do video conferences, you can do calls. You really have this one main platform here that you can use for all these collaboration initiatives that you have going on.
Absolutely. And again, if people are available, February 18th, we're going to dive really deep into Teams. We're going to talk about using Teams with all those integrations. We're going to do some demonstrations. We're going to get into chatbots, custom apps, and also voice, because for us, we're seeing a lot of customers adapt Teams as a voice platform. All right, so we're communicating. Let's get into content and collaboration, right? Because for us now, what's that next step in that cloud journey? Let's get our content into the cloud. And this is an area where we see a lot of customers are saying, hey, I need help with this right here. File share migration, right? Because they want to see an improvement. The network share is an archaic beast. It is an information graveyard that you're lucky if you can find things. You really need to be a librarian. You need to set up your folders. You need to follow your naming conventions. And then to search it, it just doesn't work, right? You go into Windows Explorer and go in your network drive and try and find something. It's not going to work for you the way SharePoint can, right? So in our customer journey, what we want to do is we want to bring that content. We want to understand what that content is, understand the compliance needs around it, right? And that's a big one right here that I don't know if some of you are aware of this solution, but it's called SharePoint Syntax. This is a brand new solution from Microsoft. It's basically a combination of a few of Microsoft technologies. Number one, Azure OCR, their compliance suite, their tagging, metadata. And the goal here is really to bring that content from on-premise and use Syntax to figure out what's going on with that content. So you train Syntax to understand what those different documents are, those content types, and it creates a migration to help you figure out, all right, this really belongs in this location. This needs these tags applied. And really, like I was saying there, is bring this into the cloud. It's going to give you all those advanced features. And we see customers all the time say, well, you know what, I've got finance, and finance has 100, Excel documents, and they're all linked to each other. We've got a tool that can handle that. And the other one is, well, I'm worried about PHI. No problem. We can bring it online, we can tag it, we can classify it, and we can provide information security around it. So again, cloud journey right here is a big one right here. It's a huge improvement for users. They don't need to VPN into the network. They don't need to worry about, do I need to be able to open it, do a VDI session to my desktop, which then I'm going to use Windows Explorer to open a file. This is really the way to go. All right, so next up, productivity. This is a big one right here. So I'm sorry, Seth, you had mentioned earlier you were working with some customers about data migration, SharePoint.
Yeah, it's SharePoint and OneDrive. OneDrive is the main area where I want to focus on, and I just wanted to tell a quick little story to everybody here where OneDrive was something that I kind of took for granted up until a couple months ago, where I keep all my files on my OneDrive folder here. I don't keep anything local on my computer. And it actually saved me a few months ago where my laptop crashed. I wasn't able to do anything. I call their home office. One of our techs there overnighted me a laptop, but until that laptop got to me, I wasn't able to actually access any of my files. Well, actually I was, because I was using OneDrive. So I just went on my iPad, logged in. I had all my files on there. The next day when the new laptop got to me, I went onto the new laptop, logged into OneDrive. All my files were right there. So no matter what device you're on, OneDrive and SharePoint really give you a nice, secure way to have workload mobility. So no matter what device you're on, you can access your information. Yeah. And again, this is included with pretty much all these licenses here. So this is a feature that hopefully a lot more people are using now, and I think people are starting to move that way. But it's just another one I like to call out of, hey, this is included in your licensing. So if you're not using it now, it's definitely an area where you want to look into it to try to maximize that return on your investment.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We see a lot of customers adapting, OneDrive, but sometimes they'll adapt it the wrong way. They'll go in there and say, okay, I'm just going to put everything that I have in OneDrive, and I'm just going to share everything out of OneDrive. And that gets a little bit complicated. That gets tough to manage. Sharing is so easy these days with SharePoint Online and OneDrive. But one thing that we work at with customers is understand where's the difference between SharePoint and OneDrive. The reality is OneDrive was built out of SharePoint many years ago. It used to be my sites. not to date myself, but yeah, understanding the differences and how to adopt each one in the organization is definitely an area that we help with. So next up, productivity. So this right here, we're talking about the Power Platform. This is a separate SKU from Microsoft from a standpoint of this is only included in an E5. And when I say included in the E5, this is Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. You get that as part of your E5. You actually get Power Automate as part of an E3. Power Apps is E5 and Power BI is E5. You can purchase these separately. Power BI is $10 per user per month. Power Apps itself is $40 per user for unlimited apps, or $10 if you're going to run 2 apps. And then lastly, Power Virtual Agent. I don't want to cover it too much. It's a little bit advanced. Intelligent Virtual Agents chatbot, basically WYSIWYG, low-code, no-code solution that allows you to create chatbots. That's a different pricing structure altogether. That's not included in any of your Office SKUs from an E3, E5 perspective. That's more of a transactional thing. So let's talk about these. What do you get with Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate? So Power BI, if you're not familiar with it, it is really Microsoft's premier business analytics tool for business intelligence. Integrates with, at this point, hundreds of different data sources. Great no-code, low-code solution. You've probably heard me say this now twice, because that is really the power of the Power Platform. It's a low-code, no-code solution. It helps citizen developers go out there and be empowered to automate business processes, collect data, do things with this without having to be, understanding C# and .NET and all these other things. And it also includes the ability to get these apps out there, right? Power Apps is a tool that I can go and install on a mobile device, and my app will run on a mobile. It'll run in my browser. Power Apps is a process automation tool, right? So we'll go over these real quick, and then Power BI, the visualization. So let's take a break right here. Let me just bring up my browser. So when you go to make.powerapps, okay. So this is the studio. It's great over here. If I click on data, you'll see there's a bunch of different options on here. I'm just going to click on this connections real quick. Oops, sorry. Connections. Tables. So this right here is Microsoft's Dataverse. This is new. It used to be referred to as the common data source. What this does is this gives you a common set of data and entities to build applications from. So if I want to go in here and create an app and click on create, you'll see I have Canvas, Model, and Portal. Each one of these is a little bit different. Let me just give you a quick demo on basically a Canvas-based app. So we'll go over here. We've got our Ovatio expense report. And what's great here, it's a very simple to use tool. So you'll see the view right now. This will work fine for me on a mobile. I can click on create new. I can see my open expenses. I can add a new expense. Demo. So Dustin's going to improve my expense report. Cost center. I'm going to put it to Ovatio. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a line item. I can put a category over here. We'll just say it's let's see, parking. Cost $12. Save. Let's add one more. So if I go over here and switch this to personal car mileage, we'll see here now as the cost gets disabled, I just enter in how many miles. Right. All right. So this is my simple app, very easy to use, very, very simple. And if I look at this and how to build this, so this is our app studio. Right? Usually it's a little bit faster, so I apologize. Someone's probably using the Wi-Fi. But the idea here is it's easy to go in there and change a form around. I can go click on here, I can change a label, right? I can change the color of the border, all these different things is advanced. But what you're seeing is there's no code, right? There's no code in here whatsoever. I'm basically dragging, dropping, adding fields, and connecting to a data source. So the next part of this is, well, this is great, but what do I do with from a standpoint of, if I want to do business processes? So business processes really is Microsoft Flow, Power Automate. It used to be Flow, but they decided to make everything in Microsoft Power. So it's Power Automate over here. And what I'll do here is I'm just going to show you one of our flows that we use internally here. So this right here, when we go and set up a new user to our organization, this is basically our onboarding. So you're seeing here, it actually gets triggered from Power Apps. We store all of our hires inside of a SharePoint list, and then we start an approval workflow. Right? And again, no code in any of this, right? This is all drag and drop, WYSIWYG. So over here, if the user is approved, we do all these things. We send them an approval email. We create the user in Active Directory. We sign their manager. We send them a welcome email. And then depending on their role, we might do certain things by adding to certain groups, right? So the great part about here is I say, all right, well, you know what? I want to do something else. And click on choose an action. And you'll see all these different controls over here. All the stuff that's built in. I can do an HTTP call. I can call Power Virtual Agents. I can use AI Builder if I wanted to go and do something by detecting things. So the idea here is that there's all these different connectors that allow you to create this visual workflow, and again, with no code whatsoever. So for us, these two tools here basically give you the ability to create a whole full-blown application. So with that, let's talk about Power BI, the last piece in the Power Platform. So we'll just show you this. This right here, this is a Power BI dashboard for COVID-19. So this is something that we built ourselves. And really just it's a demonstration of what Power BI can do. So if I click on cases, you'll see over here, our data source is Johns Hopkins. We're updating it regularly. This updates once a day. So if we go in here and by clicking on the different states, you see different information. So if I go down to Ohio, I can see what's happening for mortality, their 7-day moving average, cases per 100, right? The population of the state, total deaths and mortality rate. And really, again, the idea behind Power BI is it's a no-code, low-code solution. So basically, by attaching this tool to a data set, I can go out there and create dashboards and reports. And I can do something really cool right here. I can subscribe to this. So if I subscribe to it, I can actually get this report emailed to me on a daily basis. So for some users, this type of functionality is very big. We see this with a lot of customers, and they say, you know what, the report's great, but I don't want to have the user go out to a portal every time. No problem. They can subscribe to the report and get, let's say the legacy delivery model of a report delivered to them. So that is the Power Platform, real quick. All right, so back to our slides over here. And again, January 14th, we're going to dive into this. We're going to dive into the Power Platform. We're going to go and do a full-blown solution, and we're going to start with our Power App, using Power Automate, and then all the way into Power BI, so you can see how all these things are working. And again, talking about all that notion of how do I reduce costs? How do I, make the most of my Microsoft license? Well, the big thing here is removing your third-party apps, right? You might be using Nintex, you might be using KT, you might be using Smartsheets, you might be using a bunch of legacy third-party apps that you can replace quite easily by replacing that functionality with the Power App and Power Automate. One of the large oil companies, Microsoft has a case study in this, they actually developed and deployed over 1,000 Power Apps in the course of a year. And a great solution they had was they're using this to manage the drill. So if they had to go move that drill, giant drill, it would take them up to 18 hours sometimes. because they might have hit something and need to recalculate, recalibrate all this thing. They're able to use Power Apps to build the automation and the connectivity to get the data available that they can move that drill within 15 minutes now. So again, our goal here when we're looking into this is how do we increase productivity? And this suite of tools is an outstanding solution. So when we talk about that difference between an E3 and an E5, it's $20 per month. And with that, like I said, you're going to get Power BI, Power Apps. You've already got Power Automate. And then the other thing too, is you're going to get Teams phone system. We talked about that a little bit earlier. But the value of the E5 license from Microsoft is outstanding with all the different things that you get. All right. So our organizations, we're going through our cloud journey. We're safe, we're secure, we're communicating, we've got our content under control. We're even more productive. But how do we get more out of it? Really, this for us is where we start delving into business intelligence. So from our perspective, Power BI at the left, Azure Data Lakes, Python, PyTorch, R, Azure Machine Learning, right? So these things here are tools that many people sit there and say, we need AI, we need to get more AI, we want to leverage AI. Really what it is understanding what these different tools can do and how to inject them into your organization, right? Just because you have access to Python doesn't mean you all of a sudden have AI. What are you going to do with that? And that's where our team comes in and understands, okay, by understanding your business processes, right? We talked about getting you where that data is coming from. With that, we can use tools like Azure Synapse Analytics Studio. We can use Azure Databricks. We can use different tools that can leverage these technologies with the end result, bring that data back into Power BI for visualization so that you can unearth those little nuggets of information that are going to help you create actionable intelligence. So that's a big thing for us. How do we understand what's going on in the organization? How do we change things? And we don't want to just make change for change. We want to make a change because we understand the ramifications based on the data that's been presented. So again, on that cloud journey, this for us is you're a mature cloud, right? You're taking advantage of these things. And now after that, then you can go further. So like we're saying here, we want to continue to grow, right? And this right here is where we come into our service. This is our MOAS service, our Microsoft Optimization as a Service. And really what we're doing here is we're empowering people to work better, with both strategic and technical guidance. And we're addressing productivity, collaboration, communication, data management, all in the Microsoft stack, right? We're working with your organization to align that Microsoft licensing. Do you need an E5 for all of your users? Do you need E1? Do you need 3? Do you need Intune? It's a huge amount of SKUs in Microsoft. And again, you need to be careful and cognizant about where you're going to apply those dollars, right? Because what are we trying to do? We're trying to reduce costs, right? We also want to gain control and oversight while reducing risk and removing shadow IT. Well, where do you see shadow IT? Well, this person's got Dropbox. This person signed up for this service. This person signed up for this. Next thing you know, you're paying for all these other services that aren't compliant, they're not under your control, right? So that's our goal. Remove those third-party apps, alleviate management complexity, and better integrate those systems. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of every single third-party app. There's a lot of great apps out there. In Microsoft, when you saw those connectors and Power Apps and Power Automate and even Power BI, Microsoft understands that from an ecosystem perspective, they're not the only player in town. They want to integrate with all these different things, but we want to be smart about it, right? If we can reduce our costs by getting rid of a third-party app that we already own a license that'll do 99% of the functionality, that's a good idea. The other great thing about our optimization as a service is we're always looking out at Microsoft's latest rollouts, right? Microsoft is changing the cloud weekly, every week, to the point that at times I'll go into Teams and I'll be like, oh, there's a great new button we've got here. We've got breakout rooms. This is new. So our goal as an organization is to align what's going on with your organization and say, this is what's coming down the road for Microsoft. There's a new feature inside of Business Central. There's, like we're saying, breakout rooms. Those are brand new. How does that affect your organization? How does that help them? And then the last piece there is reviewing your personalized scores. Inside of Microsoft's tenants, there is a security score. There's also a productivity and collaboration score, right? There's a secure score for your Azure environment. all these different scores are really, those scores are listening to signals coming out of the Microsoft ecosystem. And what we're trying to do here is really help all your different departments. We're trying to be that liaison to understand what the departments are doing and how we can use the Microsoft stack to help them. Seth, I know you had mentioned you had some customers that were looking at the Microsoft optimization as a service.
Yeah. This is the one thing that I want to highlight of. We're talking today about trying to get the best return on your investment for the Microsoft stack. We've talked about some of the different technologies that are out there. This is the service here where if you're struggling with, hey, yes, I'm licensed, yes, I'm with Microsoft, but I don't know how to actually utilize all these tools here, how to get rid of some of these third-party tools, how to even use some of these tools they are licensed for. This is the service here that's going to help you bring some clarification to the process and help you actually get the most out of your Microsoft subscription and all the tools that you're already using.
Yeah, for us, it's a great solution, and it really provides that digital Sherpa, right? That how do I make the most out of these clouds? And that's what our teams really focus on, and we've got some great success with that. So from a delivery perspective, if you were to engage, the first thing we do is an assessment, really get a baseline, get an understanding of where you are in that cloud journey. And then with that, those first couple of months, we're really going to understand your business, understand where things are, identify that low-hanging fruit, align that Microsoft licensing, and get you optimized so that we can get to the point of an ongoing service that each month we're pushing the needle forward. We're moving things forward. We're helping those different departments with maybe different business processes. We're showing them how to use Teams. Maybe it's a situation of, hey, I've got Microsoft Forms, and I'd like to use Forms, and I want to use SharePoint. How do I integrate these things together? So that's an ongoing thing. So as part of this presentation, we're offering up a complimentary assessment, no cost to you. If you reach out to your EchoStor exec, they can set up a conversation with us, and we'll perform that assessment for free, give you an idea of where you are, and then give you an idea of where you should be going. And with that, thank you for joining us. Nate, I'm going to hand it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. If anybody has any last-minute questions, don't hesitate to get them in. I don't think we have any in the queue right now. I just do want to remind everybody, we do have the 2 more webinars coming up. You saw during the webinar today, Chuck did mention some of them. Again, they're Thursday, January 14th, Thursday, February 18th. In that email I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out the recording of this call for you to share with your teams. We'll also send you the invites to those other 2 webinars if you do want to show up. Again, if you do end up showing up to all 3, we will send you a nice little custom drinkware basket with some pint glasses, some wine glasses, some whiskey glasses, the whole shebang. Again, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Seth. I think this was really helpful for a lot of people. I am getting some messages from people in chat saying thank you and that this is really helpful. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys here in the future. And I think, this is a new partnership here at EchoStor with Ovatio. So I think there's a lot of real value here. So hopefully some of you see this in the future. So I think without further ado, we'll pretty much end it here. And thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.